Welcome to Focus Heavenward Ministries. Thank you for joining me as we continue in the second half of Chapter 5 in the book titled Until Death Do We Meet. The heading of Chapter 5 is In Sickness and in Health. Today, we'll finish this chapter as we read about being faithful to serve in times of health or wellness. This may seem like a no-brainer. However, when all is going well and we feel physically able, we may be tempted to only use our time and energy to pursue our own desires, to fulfill our wants and interests. I often get to watch my young grandchildren. As they play, they are the picture of health and energy. Thankfully, most of us also enjoy seasons when we are healthy and energetic. How do we honor God in times of good health? Does it then become more about us because our immediate need is lessened? It is important to address this question. In Chapter 2, I wrote about how easy it is for us to push God aside when things are going well or in the better times. We can also inadvertently trust in our own physical abilities when we feel well, when we're blessed with the picture of health and vigor. Consider how unstoppable you felt when you were in your 20s. And if you're there now, rejoice and make the most of your youth. It's likely that your thinking was something comparable to, I can do anything. In those times when we feel strong and capable, remembering that God is the one who blessed us with time and energy and abilities will help us to use everything we have for His glory. Regardless if we are in a time of sickness, which was addressed in the previous video, or health, we are to serve hard in whatever capacity we are able. We are to serve when it's easy and when it's not so easy, even when it requires extreme physical or mental effort and sacrifice. Serving God through serving one another can be laborious, difficult, thankless, and physically and emotionally exhausting. It often means we do not get to do what we think we might rather do. Sleep may even be deprived, and resources of all kinds may feel like they are being drained. Serving, however, is necessary to our relationship with God. It is an act of obedience. In serving others, we serve Him. Romans 12:1 says, I urge you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies a living and holy sacrifice, acceptable to God, which is your spiritual service of worship. Jesus came to serve, to die on a cross for us. As my husband and I get a bit older, and his medical issues increase, our serving does look different than it did perhaps 10 or 15 years ago. He no longer leads a weekly Bible study group, and the preparation to teach Sunday school regularly has become almost impossible for him. But with God's strength and in His grace, he still serves. It is fun to watch how God continues to provide unique ways for my husband to serve. We both are excited for these opportunities. So rather than slow down dramatically, I sometimes feel as if we are busier than ever trying to make the most of what God has placed in our lives. Is it possible to serve too much? Well, think of how well you sleep when you're exhausted. If God continues to allow you to serve, then you need to continue to do so whenever you're able. Let me share a simple example of one of my days. Like always, I have a rather large list of things to get done. One day I was looking forward to the time with no commitments so I could apply myself to my list. Then I received a text asking us if we would be able to watch one of our grandchildren so that my daughter could fill in for someone who had called in sick at work. Of course, the answer was yes. My husband had a tutoring appointment online, so I decided to take my 4-year-old grandson to the mall. It was rainy and cold outside, so I figured we could walk around inside and look at the Christmas decorations in the stores. We had a wonderful time, holding hands, taking silly pictures, and even eating a lollipop. My daughter was so appreciative because she knows how busy I am. But we had a great conversation about using the time and energy we have today and considering priorities. My grandson does not care about my to-do list. He does care about spending time with me. The investment in memories and serving others has value way beyond our comprehension. And I like to think that my children will remember by my example what is truly important when they have opportunities to serve their grown children years from now. There is no guarantee that you or I will be able to serve God in the same capacity tomorrow or even at all. So, as long as we have breath, let us try to make wise use of our time and energy and pray that God will use us for His purposes here on earth. Our rest will be when we get home to the one who awaits us in heaven. Lord, help us to remember why we are here. With our eyes directed towards Christ, whether we are physically weakened or enjoying health, we all have opportunities to demonstrate our devotion to God through service. Please remember, prayer, encouraging phone calls, visits, and notes are valuable ways to serve. Every few months, I receive a note in the mail. Yes, in old-fashioned snail mail, from a woman I've known almost 3 decades. I rarely cross physical paths with her, but she is faithful to let me know she is praying for me and always sends me an encouraging scripture. Each time I open one of these thoughtful envelopes, I feel the load lighten just a bit, and I'm reminded to keep forging ahead. I am always encouraged to hear of my friends who are older than myself, some in their 90s, who are still excited to share the truth with those around them. They are able to speak, so they are serving. One of the aging ladies I am blessed to know has been hospitalized several times as she is physically declining. However, when she's in the hospital, she takes every opportunity to share the truth of God's love with those around her. Often, we have opportunities to serve right within our families, and something we can always do is pray. I love it when I know people are praying for me. So, we may be decaying on the outside a bit, but we can expect to continually be strengthened on the inside in our soul, which will live forever. In sickness and in health, we can be faithful to serve the one who gave all for us. Colossians 3 verses 1 through 3 reads, "If then you have been raised up with Christ, keep seeking the things above where Christ is, seated at the right hand of God. Set your mind on the things above, not on the things that are on earth. For you have died, and your life is hidden with Christ in God." Focus heavenward. Next time we'll begin chapter 6. See you then.